I ultimately annihilated my childhood bully's life. And it all started with a single, smug comment she made when we were just 6 years old. When I was in elementary school, I had a bully. For the sake of the story, we'll call her Amara, which is the only kindness I'll ever extend to her. Our story began in the first grade, in a small school in Texas. Amara was an instant celebrity among us kids because she would talk about her time in Ghana, where she was born and raised until she was 4. I thought that was the coolest thing. The only immigrants I knew were from Mexico, which made sense, given our location and the fact that I'm Mexican American myself. One day, filled with genuine curiosity, I asked her what life was like in Africa. She looked at me, a smug little smile playing on her lips, and said in a voice dripping with condescension, "A lot better than Mexico." Even as a kid, the comment felt odd, but I brushed it off. I figured she was just trying to sound cool. But as the year progressed, she kept making these little offhanded remarks about me being Mexican, always directed at me and only me. The turning point came in the 2nd grade. We were just learning a brand new, heavy word, racism. At 7 years old, I had a vague grasp of it. My mom had already taught me the derogatory words used against our people, wanting me to be prepared. We were in class, watching a cartoon about Martin Luther King Jr. during a scene where peaceful protesters were being unjustly arrested. I thought it was cruel and unfair. That's when Amara looked directly at me and shouted for the whole class to hear. "A beaner like you would never understand." For those who don't know, beaner is a vile slur against Latin people. It may not be as universally recognized as the N-word, but for people like me, it's a disgusting, dehumanizing term, and one I'd heard many times before. I was horrified to be called that in the middle of a lesson about the civil rights movement. Felt like a scene out of a nightmare. I looked to my teacher for help, for any sign of adult intervention. She just shrugged her shoulders and turned back to the TV. This single shrug from a trusted adult wasn't just a moment of inaction. It was a green light. It taught Amara that her cruelty had no consequences and taught me that my pain was invisible. After class, I asked the teacher why she did nothing. What Amara called me was a bad word, a word against my ethnicity. Her response? "It's just a word. Sticks and stones." I ran home sobbing and told my mom everything. She was upset, but she tried to be optimistic, suggesting Amara probably didn't know how bad the word was and might apologize. My mother couldn't have been more wrong. For the next 4 years, Amara's racist taunts were relentless. She called me a beaner who ate nothing but beans, or a wetback she claimed must have illegally crossed the Rio Grande. I begged her to stop. I pleaded with my teachers for help, but no one ever did a thing. The abuse wasn't just verbal. She insulted my looks, my curly hair, and my weight, pointing out how I was bigger than the other, slimmer girls, never mind that she was no model herself. Things got worse in 4th grade. My mom was dating a man who was a heavy drinker and smoker, and the smell of cigarettes would cling to my clothes. This was during the height of the D.A.R.E. anti-drug campaign, and Amara used me as her personal cautionary tale. She would make a grand show of plugging her nose whenever I walked by, loudly complaining about the smell. This spawned rumors that I never bathed. A lie that followed me all the way to 6th grade. My mom, realizing this wasn't stopping, tried desperately to intervene. She contacted the school repeatedly, only to be told it was just a disagreement between two classmates. She wrote notes for me to give my teachers, but they were ignored. Then, in 5th grade, my life truly fractured. My grandfather passed away, and the pain of his loss was raw and overwhelming, a wound I still feel to this day. When word got out at school, Amara approached me. For a fleeting, naive moment, I thought this might be it. A moment of human decency. She said she was sorry my grandfather was gone. I held my breath. Then she delivered the blow. It's sad that he died to get away from you, she sneered. I would too if I realized my granddaughter was so ugly. I shattered into tears while she and her friends laughed. And as always, the teachers did nothing. That was the final straw for my mom. She finally got a teacher on the phone and demanded they do something, or she would come down to the school and make Amara stop herself. So, for the first time ever, a teacher timidly approached Amara and asked her to stop being mean to me. Amara looked at the teacher and burst into dramatic, crocodile tears. It's because I'm black, isn't it? She wailed. Just like that. My teacher backed off, terrified. This moment revealed Amara's most cynical and effective weapon, hijacking the language of social justice to shield her own bigotry. It was a tactic that would render every adult in the school powerless against her. From then on, she used that line every single time a teacher even looked at her sideways. The bullying quieted down a bit in 6th grade. But it was only because Amara was plotting something worse. My one escape at the time was drawing anime. I wasn't great, but I practiced every day and was slowly improving. I was working on a drawing of the main cast of Sailor Moon. And for once, it was looking really good. I left my desk to go to the bathroom. When I came back, it was destroyed. The words "beaner" and "wetback" were scrawled all over it in permanent marker. I just broke down. I had worked so hard on it, only for it to be vandalized with the same hate that followed me every day. I looked across the room and saw Amara sitting with her friends, laughing. I could see the permanent marker in her desk. That was it. I marched up to her and screamed, crying and demanding to know why she hated me so much. We were both sent to the principal's office. Finally, I thought, something will be done. I was wrong. The principal looked at both of us and told me that I should apologize to Amara. Apologize for yelling at her. I was stunned. But she ruined my drawing. She wrote slurs all over it. I pointed out the fresh marker stains on Amara's hands. Why aren't you telling her you don't tolerate racism in this school? His response? I'm not taking sides, young lady. But those are just words. Sticks and stones. In that moment, I understood. Amara was untouchable. And there was nothing I could do. My mom was called. She argued with the principal. But as always, nothing happened. That incident emboldened Amara, and she made the rest of my time there a living hell. She destroyed me. I stopped drawing. To this day, if I even try to sketch a character, I break down in tears and have to stop. My mother told me later she watched her happy little girl morph into a sad, combative teenager. I developed a deep-seated hatred for my own ethnicity. I cried, wishing I were white because I hated being called those names. And I hated my own face because I could see my Native American features in it. Yes. On top of being Mexican, I'm also indigenous. She made me hate the very core of who I was. The daily bullying ended when we went to different junior highs. But the damage was done. It took thousands of dollars in therapy for me to work through the terrible things she had said and slowly start to love myself again. My family wrapped me in unconditional love, telling me stories of our ancestors. I even connected with the tribe I'm descended from, which helped me reclaim my indigenous roots. We ended up at the same high school, but I avoided her like the plague. By then, Amara had crafted a new persona. She was a model student. During Black History Month assemblies, she would stand at the podium and give passionate speeches about being proud of her race and the importance of embracing people of all backgrounds. It took every ounce of my willpower not to stand up and call out the hypocrisy. Fast forward to 2021. I was 28. Engaged. And packing up my room to move into a new house with my husband-to-be. I got a notification on my phone. It was from Amara. She was hosting an elementary school reunion. The old building was being torn down, and she was inviting everyone for one last goodbye. My first instinct was to decline. Just driving past that building made my heart pound. But then a thought sparked. Amara, in her arrogance, believed she had written the final chapter of my story years ago. She had no idea that by sending that invitation, she had just handed me the pen. This was my chance to expose her for the racist she truly was. I found out I wasn't her only victim. She had tormented a girl from Delhi and a Chinese student who ended up transferring schools because of her. I talked to my mom, who confirmed she remembered everything and had kept meticulous records of every incident, every meeting, every dismissive response from the school. In an old file box, I found them, not just her notes, but the hateful messages Amara had written to me. And even my ruined Sailor Moon drawing with those vile slurs in permanent marker. Seeing it again brought all the self-hatred and sorrow rushing back. I also found a note from the principal which explicitly stated, "It seems that Amara called me nasty words based on her ethnicity." It was signed. It was proof. The school knew and did nothing. After calming myself down, I went to work, making copies of everything. The reunion was a barbecue on the school playground. I saw some of my old classmates, many of whom were also Amara's victims. Amara had also invited members of a local equal rights group, where she had apparently made a name for herself as a star volunteer. The irony was almost too much. Amara gave a beautiful speech about the wonderful memories she had at the school, how it had welcomed her as an immigrant and made her feel like she belonged. I remembered the fearless, smug girl from first grade and nearly laughed. When it was my turn, I stood up. Amara was smiling, confident I was still that beaten-down little girl. I started by talking about how the school had brought me nightmares and trauma that required years of therapy to overcome. Then I looked directly at Amara. I said she was a prime example of the American dream, an immigrant who worked tirelessly to make it. I paused, letting the silence hang in the air. Then adopted the same smug tone she had used on me 20 years prior. "I am so glad you grew out of your racism." Then I walked away. That wasn't the end. Remember those copies I made? I had anonymously sent the entire package, the notes, the drawing, the principal's admission, To the leader of that equal rights group. The shitstorm that followed was biblical. The group's leader was livid. He immediately kicked Amara out, telling her she was a disgrace. Her fiancé dumped her. She lost her job. Her parents, who had never been told about the bullying, were furious and ashamed. The story even reached the school district superintendent, who saw my mother's notes. My former principal lost a special award she had received for her contributions. The district issued a formal apology to me and Amara's other victims. They accepted. I politely refused, saying it was far too little. Far too late. The story highlights a difficult truth. As one commenter on my original post pointed out, racism has been cross-cultural for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. The thought that it's primarily white people who are racist is proof that racism is alive and well now. Because it's an extremely racist view. My story is proof that hate isn't confined to one race. A black girl can be just as racist as anyone else. Of course. Amara eventually tried to contact me, demanding that I apologize for ruining her life. This is where the sheer audacity of a bully is on full display. As another commenter perfectly phrased it, so she never apologized for ruining your childhood, but wants you to apologize for exposing her actions? I just ignored and blocked her. I got my revenge. And I don't regret it. I wanted her to feel as broken as I did for all those years. I'm in a much better place now. Happily married and living out of state. I've finally learned to love myself again. My Mexican heritage. My indigenous roots. All the parts of me she tried to make me hate. The story is a stark reminder that words are not just words. They have power. They can cause deep, lasting wounds. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to make sure the truth finally comes to light. She faced the consequences of her actions, but the scars remain. Do you think true justice was served? Or is some damage just too deep to ever fully repair? Let me know your thoughts below.